morning again. It's so nice to see a packed house on day 2. Welcome back. I'm Juju Chang. Go ahead.
And I'm Abby Pogrebin.
And you know, it's almost noon, but it's still morning, and it's already been an incredibly impactful morning here at day 2 of Never Is Now. As you know, it is the world's largest convening, the world's largest summit on anti-Semitism and hate. At the heart of this event is recognizing that no one can fight hate alone. Everyone here, whether in the room or online, is committed to sharing strength, exchanging ideas, and learning from each other. So hello to our global virtual audience out there. Hello. It's great to have you back with us. And for those of you here at Javits today, I hope you all found your morning breakout sessions purposeful and fascinating. There have been so many compelling conversations up here on stage as well about keeping our community safe and about building those crucial partnerships in fighting hate. We've never even taken a peek behind the curtain at how ADL's experts are disrupting anti-Semitism every day. And this is also vital in reminding us that none of us are alone in fighting hate for good.
For those of us in the room, look around you for a minute. You will see a few new people, nearly 1,000 students who are joining us today. Let's hear it, as you've shown, for the power and the potential of our future leaders in this room. We are so grateful for the high school students, the college students, and the educators who are here today. They are truly on the front line dealing with the explosions of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism that are making so many schools feel like a less safe space for Jewish students. These students are joining us here for the breakouts and main stage, and they will have special student-centered discussions this afternoon as we equip them to go back to the classroom and the quad with tips, tactics, and a clear message that they are not alone in confronting hate and that we are all here to help them. I know this is a little bit putting you on the spot, but Juju and I would love for every student in this room to stand. We want to thank you all of you young people who have more energy than we do, for your dedication, for speaking out, for making the world better. Thank you for being a part of Never Is Now.
We can clap. It's always worth celebrating. So up next, I'd like to welcome to the stage the chairman and the CEO of Pfizer, Dr. Albert Bourla. He is obviously, you're familiar with his reputation. He was here last year as the winner of ADL's Courage Against Hate Award for his company's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and for the courage that he displayed by speaking out against disinformation and hate. Dr. Bourla will introduce this year's amazing honoree, and we welcome to Never Is Now, Dr. Bourla.
Thank you, Juju, and it's an honor and a great pleasure to be back on this stage a year later at an event which means so much to me and which is very important than ever today, given the current circumstances that we all know that we are living. I want to start by saying how much I appreciate the extraordinary leadership of Jonathan Greenblatt. He's a man He's a man of integrity, strength, and courage, and I'm very privileged to call him my friend. But today, I'm here, and we are here to honor another leader, also a very good friend of mine, Julie Sweet. From the moment I met Julie, I knew she was someone special. Intelligent, obviously, but much more than that. Articulate, visionary, inspiring, energetic, compassionate, and most importantly, courageous, as the award that she will receive says. Julie is not intimidated by the forces of evil and is unafraid to speak out for truth and justice. She does not look for an easy way out or the path of least resistance. She is willing to confront what is uncomfortable and disrupt the status quo if she thinks that this status quo is wrong. She refuses to stay silent, which is another problem of today's world, in the face of hate, because she knows silence is the biggest enabler. She talks the talk, but more importantly, she walks the walk, literally. Everybody knows that she prefers to leave the safe confines of her office to be with teams all over the globe as often as she can. She's not about the theoretical. She is a hands-on leader who is all about doing real things that make a difference, things that can be measured. With Julie, it is never about her. She is all about the greater good. She gives credit and takes responsibility. Julie understands that people who lead companies have not only a unique opportunity, but an obligation to use position of prominence to speak out against hatred. In fact, she has built a playbook that other leaders should follow. She uses her platform to speak out. She uses the size and convening power of her company to bring people together. She uses the increasingly alarming data and anecdotes to describe the scope of the problem, and she talks personally about how hate has affected her. Her tireless campaign against hatred is inspiring, impactful, and influential. She is deeply a valued ally of the Jewish community at a time where allies were never more important. We all know the stakes are high, and the danger is real. Sadly, there can be no doubt that anti-Semitism is growing along with other forms of bigotry. From the nation's capital to the campuses of the most prestigious colleges, to the corridors of the United Nations, to the pages of social media, seemingly respectable people are fueling the fires of anti-Semitism, often with encouragement from people in positions of leadership and elsewhere. Julie Sweet is on the front lines fighting hard to extinguish those fires and all forms of hatred and bigotry, now and forever. And perhaps the best description of Julie is that she is a force for good in the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, for me, it's a true privilege, personally and professionally, to have been asked to help present this award to Julie. There is no one more deserving of the Courage Against Hate Award than she. Please join Jonathan and me in congratulating Julie on receiving this year's Courage Against Hate Award.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Albert, for your courage, your leadership, for what you do every day fighting against hate. Thank you to Pfizer for all you do, your people standing up against hate. It's very special to me to be here after Albert, to have him here and to take this award because he and Pfizer have been amazing. Please join me in recognizing them again. It's particularly special for Albert, for me to have Albert here because my daughters are here, Chloe and Abby, and I've spoken about Albert. And for them to be able to hear him and learn from him the way I have learned from him is very meaningful. I am honored today to accept this award on behalf of the over 700,000 courageous people of Accenture who strive every day to live our values of respect, equity, inclusion for all people, and zero tolerance for hate and bigotry of any kind, including anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, xenophobia, and hate based on race and ethnicity and sexual orientation. I'm humbled to accept the award from the ADL because the ADL has fought and stood up for marginalized communities around the world for over 100 years, fighting anti-Semitism, extremism, hatred and bigotry, and injustice. And we owe a debt of gratitude to their fight. We are proud that we signed in September the ADL Workplace Against Anti-Semitism, and we're deeply appreciative that the ADL is focusing on the workplace. Thank you, Ben, and the entire board of directors, and Jonathan, and the incredible team at the ADL for what you do every day to keep the enduring mission of the ADL going. We need you now more than ever. Thank you. It is really inspiring to be in this room, to look around, to see so many people, to know how many people are watching, and especially to know that there are nearly 1,000 students here. I hope that as we leave here, that we all choose to be allies of another community, that we know that we have allies standing with us. Everyone here has chosen to learn more, to do more. When we leave here, we can look around when we're at events, when we're at school, to see is anyone being left out and take an action to include them. And when they need us to speak, that we will speak. And if you take anything away from my speech today, I hope it is this: that in order to eradicate hate, we must both speak up and take action against hate whenever we see it, and every day we must intentionally build bridges across our communities. We must build the foundation of trust and understanding and shared humanity that will be the opposite of hate. Today, I'd like to share 2 stories about my and Accenture's journey, and then some insights that I hope will help other companies. The first story is about a major turning point at Accenture. Let me take you back to July 6th, 2016. In the 2 weeks prior, 2 African-American men, Philando Castile and Alton Sterling, had been shot to death by police officers, and then Dallas officers were ambushed, killing 5 and injuring 9 others. Devastated by this violence, I sent out a first of its kind at Accenture invitation to our then 50,000 people, an invitation to a webcast and to local community meetings, an invitation to talk about race, not diversity, to talk, and I quote, about race, racial injustice and violence, and how it is affecting our people at Accenture. It was the first of its kind because the accepted wisdom at that time was that issues like race or hatred or religion were not accepted in the workplace. These were social issues. They were not appropriate to talk about at work. And yet it had become very clear that we could never meet our aspiration to be a company where everyone felt they belonged if we were asking whole parts of our community to park their realities at the door. Our African American colleagues at the time said they were coming to work at a time of immense pain to their community, and the silence was deafening. The night before the webcast, I was nervous. You see, I had many people who were encouraging, who thought we were doing the right thing, including our amazing Chief Leadership and Human Resources Officer, Ellen Shook, who has made immeasurable contributions at Accenture to diversity and has been a role model in standing up for hate. But there were others who were understandably very uncomfortable at deviating from that accepted wisdom, and they did not want me to proceed. We went forward, and it was a massive change and turning point for Accenture. After the webcast and those community meetings, the feedback was overwhelming. Our diverse communities said that we had changed the culture, that they felt heard and understood. Our non-diverse communities thanked me because they had not understood, and there was universal pride that we had been willing to have these difficult conversations in the office. That webcast became a vehicle we call Building Bridges, which we have turned to over and over again. And since 2016, we have intentionally been working to build bridges, to take actions, and to speak up internally and externally against hate, against racism, against discrimination. We have a lot more to go, but we have made enormous progress, which brings me to my second story. This past October, after the horrific terrorist attack by the Hamas in Israel, and as we witnessed the tragic loss of life in Israel and for the Palestinian people in Gaza, I gathered a small group of leaders in a conference room in Chicago. Leaders on my leadership team who were Jewish, Muslim, and Christian. Our focus on diversity and innovation over the years had meant that I naturally had a leadership team that was diverse, including religion. And so we were getting together, not newly formed, but as colleagues and friends. Emotions were raw. Our first order of priority had been to make sure that our people in Israel were safe. We did not have an office in Gaza. But now we felt the pressure to speak, to find the words to acknowledge the pain felt by our people across communities in the world, to make sure our people felt safe at work, and to articulate what it means to respect each other when we have differences, what it means to have zero tolerance for hate. With the courageous help of our faith-based employee resource groups, and leveraging our diversity, our common values, and our bonds as colleagues, we found those words. We sent a memo to our 700,000 people called Living Our Values. We acknowledged the pain, the grief, the trauma, the fear that was across communities and faith. We talked about our sadness at the ongoing loss. And we articulated clearly that we have zero tolerance for anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, xenophobia, and hate speech of any kind, including the defense of terrorism or the equating of terrorism with people or religions. We talked about our absolute obligation to live our values at Accenture every day, our values of equity, inclusion, belonging for all, and psychological and physical safety. And every member of my global management committee individually signed the memo. This was 45 leaders from across the world. We wanted to demonstrate that we were united against hate and united by our shared humanity. I was so proud of my colleagues and our people and of the progress we have made since 2016. We have more to do, and we will keep fighting because we believe that companies have a very important role to play in fighting hate. We must speak up and take action when we see it, and we must strive every day to build the foundation in our companies and our communities that will help us eradicate hate. I wanted to share just a few of our insights in how to build that foundation. First, we believe that companies must adopt and clearly articulate publicly and regularly that their company values include zero tolerance against hate and bigotry of any kind, and that your company values include an unwavering commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equality, because it is the right thing to do and because it has been proven over and over again that it is good for business. And those values must explicitly include diversity of religion and zero tolerance for hate against religions, any religion. Our values as companies must also include caring about people professionally and personally. We will never eradicate hate until we care about each other and recognize in each other that shared humanity. The second thing that we have learned is that it is absolutely essential that companies form and financially support strong employee resource groups. These groups provide networks for our employees so they can feel like they belong. They're essential advisors to leadership. And if your company has employees who are interested, those employee resource groups must include faith-based employee groups. We formed our first faith-based employee group in 2005. And today we have groups for Baha'i, Buddhism, Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, and Christian faiths, and an interfaith group. Our third lesson has been the importance of allies in forming formal ally networks. Today, we have an ally network of over 140,000 people, and our people say it makes a difference. It's a powerful group of people who've said they will take action to make us more inclusive. It makes our people feel like they belong, to know that others have said, I will stand with you. And finally, and very importantly, companies must ensure that there is a fair process to be able to speak up when there is hate or alleged hate or racism or discrimination, and give people confidence that they can do so. And the teams that investigate must be diverse. They must reflect the employee population so that both the person speaking up and the person who is alleged to have done something wrong can feel that the process is safe. Now, companies are led by people, and there are a couple of lessons I've learned as a leader of an amazing company. The first is you will never always get it right. Never. You need to have the best advisors, you need to listen, and then make the best decision you can. And you will still sometimes get it wrong. And when you get it wrong, you have to have the humility to listen and make changes. And second, you will also never make everyone happy. Having the courage to speak up and take action against hate is not taking sides. It's also not about being popular. It is about living as an individual and accompany your values. It is about doing what you believe in. Thank you again, Jonathan and the ADL, for this honor. Thank you to my family and friends. Thank you for all being here together. Thank you all for being here. Together, we will be stronger than the forces of hate. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage National Council of Jewish Women CEO, Sheila Katz.
Congratulations, Julie Sweet and Accenture, for the Courage Against Hate Award. Truly a well-deserved honor. I'm Sheila Katz, CEO of National Council of Jewish Women, a 130-year-old Jewish, feminist, civil rights organization that has worked in partnership with the ADL since its founding. It is truly an honor to join you today and introduce a remarkable individual, a dear friend, and a true mensch, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland. Attorney General Garland has always been a steadfast partner in our shared mission in the fight against hate. He works tirelessly to uphold justice, combat hate crimes, and protect marginalized communities. Attorney General Garland is fully committed to taking action to make all of our communities safer in this time of rising anti-Semitism. His genuine care for the Jewish community stems from his official role, his identity as a Jew, and his family's history confronting religious persecution. This is personal for him. Attorney General Garland looks hate in the face every single day. When a Michigan man associated with the base, a white supremacist group, conspired to deface a synagogue in Michigan, the Attorney General prosecuted them. When a California man targeted and shot 2 Jewish men leaving their synagogue services in Los Angeles, the Attorney General convicted him. When neo-Nazis attempted to dox journalists and advocates who expose anti-Semitism, the Attorney General secured a lengthy sentence. And when Jewish women leaders, including me, were targeted with threats of rape after October 7th, the Attorney General made sure we were safe. The list goes on. Attorney General Garland doesn't back down. He works in the true spirit of Tikkun Olam to repair our broken world. And in doing so, he makes our country safer for all of us. Please join me in welcoming U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland.
Good morning, and thank you, Sheila, for that overly generous introduction. I'm grateful to ADL for the invitation to join this gathering aimed at combating anti-Semitism and hate at a time when that work is of the utmost urgency. It is especially meaningful to be here at the end of a trip I began last weekend in Selma, Alabama, to join civil rights advocates in commemorating the anniversary of Bloody Sunday. 59 years ago today, on March 7th, 1965, some 600 people set out to march from Selma to Montgomery to insist that this country make good on the promise it made nearly a century earlier, that no American citizen would be denied the right to vote on account of race. In response, they were met with horrific violence at the hands of their own government. But the movement was undeterred. Civil rights leaders organized 2 more marches, a second symbolic march to the epic Edmund Pettus Bridge 2 days later, and then 2 weeks later, a third and final march from Selma to Montgomery. At the third march, thousands of Americans from across the country came to stand alongside them. Leaders of the Justice Department stood alongside them, and leaders of ADL stood alongside them. For over a century, this organization has stood firmly in defense of the civil rights and safety of American Jews. At the same time, ADL has stood firmly in defense of the civil rights and safety of all Americans. As ADL's founding charter, written over 110 years ago, declared, quote, "The immediate object of the League is to stop the defamation of the Jewish people. Its ultimate purpose is to secure justice and fair treatment to all citizens alike." That dual mission has only become more urgent in recent years, and its importance has become even clearer since October 7, the deadliest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. On that day, Hamas terrorists brutally murdered over 1,100 people, including 40 Americans, and kidnapped hundreds of hostages. That attack devastated families in Israel, the United States, and around the world. And it renewed a familiar sense of fear and isolation for Jews everywhere. As you are well aware, since October 7, there has been a stunning increase in the volume and the frequency of threats against Jews and Jewish institutions across the United States. The FBI reports that between October 7, 2023 and January 30th of this year, the Bureau opened over 3 times more anti-Jewish hate crime investigations than in the previous 4 months, on top of an already existing year-over-year increase. These statistics do not begin to capture the fear in which I know Jewish communities have been living. They do not capture the fear of Jewish Americans that any sign of our identity could make us the target of an attack. They do not capture the hours that congregations have spent planning for the worst. Many of you gathered here today have experienced fear in your communities. And in keeping with ADL's long and vital tradition of combating hate against all communities, you have also stood up for members of the Muslim, Arab, and Palestinian communities who are facing a similarly frightening spike in threats right now. No person and no community in this country should have to live in fear of hate-fueled violence. That is why, in the wake of the October 7th attacks, I directed all of our U.S. attorneys' offices and all of our FBI field offices to meet with local law enforcement and community leaders to strengthen our response to threats of hate-fueled violence. We are aggressively investigating and prosecuting all such threats, and we will continue to do so. The Justice Department has no higher priority than protecting the safety and civil rights of everyone in our country. That has long been the Justice Department's charge. The Justice Department was first established in 1870 in the wake of the Civil War and in the midst of Reconstruction. with the first principal purpose of enforcing the protections guaranteed by the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. The department sent hundreds of attorneys and agents to investigate and prosecute members of the first incarnation of the Ku Klux Klan, who were terrorizing Black Americans seeking to exercise their right to vote. The Justice Department understood then, and we understand now, that while white supremacist violence and hate-fueled threats and violence of all kinds threaten the safety of individuals and entire communities, it threatens the very foundation of our democracy. Hate-fueled violence seeks to fracture our society, to isolate us from one another, to pit community against community. It works to make us question our sense of belonging and to lose faith in our institutions. But our democracy promises that all people will be protected in the exercise of their civil rights, in their freedom to worship and think as they please, and in the peaceful expression of their opinions, beliefs, and ideas. It promises that all people will be protected from persecution, violence, and harm. Working to fulfill that promise is the Justice Department's sacred responsibility. The responsibility to fulfill that promise is why I took this job. My family fled the pogroms of Eastern Europe at the start of the 20th century. My grandmother, who was one of 5 children, born in what is now Belarus, made it to the United States, as did 2 of her siblings. The other 2 did not. They were killed in the Holocaust. If not for America, there is little doubt that the same would have happened to my grandmother. But this country took her in, and under the protection of our laws, she was able to live. She was able to live without fear of persecution. I'm also married to a woman whose mother escaped from Austria in 1938, shortly after Hitler's army entered Vienna. Under the protection of our laws, she too was able to live without fear of persecution. That protection is what distinguishes America from so many other countries. The protection of law, the equal protection of the law, is the foundation of our system of government. I am here today because this country took my family in and protected when they had nowhere else to go. I also know that the protections afforded to my family have not always been afforded to families that don't look like mine. Ensuring the protection of law for all of our country's citizens has been the responsibility of every generation in our country's history. Today, it is our responsibility. It is the responsibility of the Department of Justice. It is my responsibility as Attorney General. It is the responsibility of every American We must protect each other. Thank you.
So moving. Thank you. That was such a moving and deeply personal address. Thank you so much, Merrick Garland, for joining us today, sharing your wisdom, your perspective, and also your heart with us. Often when we face the most difficult tasks in the world, when we face evil, darkness, the antidote to a lot of the heaviness is often laughter. And so we're about to shift gears here and talk about the impact of a very different kind of voice. I'm about to host a discussion called, But Is It Funny? Where to draw the line in comedy. And I'm just thrilled to be joined for this discussion using comedy to talk about identity by two incredible performers, Alex Edelman and Zarna Garg. Alex is truly a superb and thought-provoking comedian, actor, and writer. How many of you have seen his Broadway show, Just for Us? Yeah? It's often referred to as a work of genius. I found myself belly aching laughing in the seats the entire time, and it is now continuing a Boffo tour. We also welcome Zarna Garg, who describes herself as one in a billion. An immigrant from India, a mom, a stand-up comedian who believes that every brown woman everywhere has the right to laugh at anything and anyone they want, including all the sacred cows. So this discussion has an important point, though, to make at its core about identity, bias, censorship, self-censorship, and so much more. So we are thrilled, I'm personally excited to hear from these very talented people. Let's welcome Alex and Zarna. Oh my God, I wouldn't have missed it. Come on in, come on in. Zarna and I clearly got the memo on the colorful green dress.
I got it. I just decided to deviate a little bit.
Yeah, okay, fine.
We should thank our opening act, Merrick Garland. We really
Right,
should.
yeah. He warmed up the crowd, got them laughing out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Alex, you've been described as a nebbishy hipster.
By who?
By, I don't remember.
Wait. Is this a Trump thing where like some people are saying you're a nebbishy hipster?
Everyone's been saying it. I actually think of you more as
No. I'm not like moving on from that. Who's saying I'm a nebbishy hipster?
I will find you the citation later.
Is Jonathan Greenblatt?
I will hold my sources close to the chest.
He's a visionary leader, but he's bald, Jonathan, so we should really keep it under wraps then.
I like to think of you as a Menschie provocateur. How about that?
Fine. I mean, why okay, fine, whatever. Do whatever you want. Go ahead.
But to me, let's give the overview of your show for those few of us who haven't had the absolute delight to see the show. The tagline is basically a nice Jewish boy walks into a neo-Nazi meeting in Queens and comedy ensues.
Sure.
Yeah. Please give us, for those in the room, how it came to be and what at its core are the themes that you're trying to explore.
I guess that's the top line of the show is that I was on Twitter and there were
Zarna's already laughing.
Hysterical. I was on Twitter, and if you don't know it, it's a dying social media platform, and I wound up going down this rabbit hole of anti-Semites, and if you can believe it, you actually used to have to go down a rabbit hole to find the anti-Semites, but now, for some reason, they're everywhere, right in front of you, and someone tweeted. Hey, if you have questions about your whiteness, come to this address in Queens tomorrow night at 9:15. And I was like, I have questions about my whiteness. And I'm free tomorrow night at 9:15. Should I go to this? And so I went and I sat there for a while. But the thing I think that's resonated with people is sort of like I think I had a really great, I've had really great collaborators. My director on the show, Adam Brace, Mike Birbiglia, the producer of the show in New York for the first time, is a really great comedian. I grew up being very suspicious of easy comforts. And I thought of how easy the show would be to go and just make fun of them. But I thought a more interesting, thoughtful aspect, sort of actually like reckoning with the things that they're reckoning with, seeing where I have things in common with them, seeing if there are hard questions that I have to ask myself. And also, like, when you're raised in a Jewish community, a very small community, basically a shtetl, right? Like, you sometimes have to do, like, everyone has different opinions, right? Some people might have opinions you find very objectionable, right? Like, you might think someone's, you might think Jared Kushner is like a really pretentious, smug weenie, and someone else might want to give him an award. So, like, it's true. I'm not saying anything that I'm not saying may or may not be me. Who thinks he's extremely destructive, but I'm just saying that it's, look, any the other,
There are clearly no sacred cows safe here.
Yeah.
So as a journalist, I'd like to just point out some breaking news that we have, which is that HBO is about to air your special. So let's take a quick look at the clip, the official promo from HBO, released today.
My name is Alex Evelyn. I'm a comedian, and I'm gonna tell you a story. It's a Tuesday night, and I see this tweet, and I send it to my best friend in the world, and I wrote, David, do you want to come with me to this meeting of Nazis in Queens? Just pulling up chairs. It's like a semicircle, or like an anti-semicircle.
Now I see the Nebuchadnezzar hipster thing.
Well done. Congratulations. But while we're congratulating, let's congratulate Zarna as well, because you have a special on Amazon, right? Woo! So, you are unapologetically classic Indian immigrant mom, and like so many immigrants like me can relate to the humor that you do. Let's, before we dive in, take a look at a clip of you at work.
I live in New York City with my husband and 3 kids. 2 boys, woohoo! 1 girl, whatever about her. No, it's okay, it's fine. She has a therapist. That's right, I pay $3.50 an hour so the 2 of them can talk smack about me. And my daughter, she's dating a white boy. Yeah. No, it's okay, it's a phase. Everybody goes through it. And I've been most supportive. I told her, you do you, whatever makes you happy, because if I don't say that, that's 6 more sessions at $3.50 an hour. But I did say to her, I said, listen to me, it's fine you're dating this boy, but please don't post a photo with him on the Instagram. And she goes, why not? I said, because if your grandma, Dadi, sees it, she will drop dead. Then I thought about it, I said, okay, post the photo.
As I said, no sacred cows are safe. You don't just like take on stereotypes, you drill right into them and double down on them. Everything from the mother-in-law to entitled teens. Tell me how you go about that.
Well, before I get into that, can I just share a little backstory about this clip?
Please.
Because there is a bit that they didn't allow on TV. And that is, the joke really is, my daughter's dating a white boy, and that's okay, that's a phase, everybody goes through it. And he's Jewish, and I've been most supportive. I told her, you do you, whatever makes you happy, also because I know his mother's gonna put an end to it. See, we all understood each other. Unfortunately, that piece didn't make it to TV.
That is hilarious. That is the most honest laugh I've heard all day. Yeah. You got a lot of dishonest laughter. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Kidding. All right, so.
Some people are saying he's a devilishing hipster.
But give us a sense of like how you break down those stereotypes, and you really just are unafraid.
Oh, I don't break them down. I embrace them. I mean, I'm all about the STEM. I want all my kids to be doctors. My daughter is actually a gifted writer. She has an essay, best of New York Times essay, but I killed that because we need doctors.
We don't.
No, we do. Alex.
It's a terrible job.
Alex.
My dad's a doctor. My mom's a lawyer. Which is, shut up! Just shut up. You know what? Not to be serious. I hate to be serious for a second, but like, I really don't like stereotypes. I'm very annoyed at like, I think Jewish comedy's needs to sort of kill its past in order to have a better future. Like, I think the shtick of our parents and grandparents, and a lot of you in the audience that I'm looking at right now, I think this sort of like Catskills comedy that we liked is bad and passé. And I think it'd be nice to see people talk about what it means to be Jewish instead of like Ashkenazis are like this, Sfardis are like this, even though that's hilarious and that's Modi. But like besides everybody who's like the funniest comic on the planet and my role model and like a huge influence on me, but I want to see more introspective comedy because like I don't know anyone who wants their kids to be, I'm going to say this and you guys are going to be like, but I don't know anyone who wants their kids to be like a doctor or a lawyer.
I think you're sitting next to one.
Please, Ganesh, I didn't say that. This is him. Your dad's a doctor, your mom's a lawyer. That's why you could be a comic.
Yeah. Absolutely. Fantastic.
Shout out to every doctor, lawyer, every computer person who did the job that like was so hard to do. So their kids today are like growing up. Even my daughter, she's like.
But you think our kids are going to be less creative? No one. And I would never allow it. If my kid was like, Dad, I want to be a doctor, I'd be like, no son of mine is going to be a doctor. You're going to be a ballerina like me or a travel influencer like your mom.
Who knew that the comedy segment would turn into Crossfire?
Yeah.
That is what's happening. But honestly, Zarna, let's talk a little bit about, you said, the clip didn't make it for TV.
Yeah.
Where are the boundaries? Is there any place you don't go? What is it that's funny or not funny, inappropriate or not appropriate?
The thing is that no one knows. So you have to just use your best judgment and do what you believe is right. Because no one knows. I mean, I have a 65-minute special on Amazon Prime right now, and I have jokes about everything in there. My mother-in-law, which we're not going to go there, but you guys can watch it for free if you have a Prime account.
I think Korean Americans and Jewish Americans know a thing or two about mother.
Right? You know what I'm. So I have jokes about everything. I have jokes about.
Everyone knows the thing about mother. It's not like it's like, this
But
is
that's the point, isn't it? Is that it's universal.
Yeah,
like you make fun of your thing, but everybody has that thing.
Sure.
But here's the unexpected part. I have jokes about everything. I have jokes about abortion, gun control. I thought I would get in trouble for those jokes. I was pushing the boundaries. None of it. No one cared. No one cared about any of those jokes. It was a joke about my son's height that got me in trouble. That got me all kinds of hate.
Tell us more.
He goes from the river to the sea, so that's very. No, sorry.
See, there's a way to connect it all.
I'm asking myself, should I be laughing? I don't know.
No, so the joke is that the best news I got in my family, which is actually true, is that my 17-year-old son is now 5'8" and 1/4 inches tall. Like, isn't that amazing? To us, this is great news to Indian people. Like, my husband and I are both short people. We used to pray to God that our son should be tall. And, but it turns out that there is no Hindu god of height. 19,000 gods and not one for the thing every Indian person needs. I mean, what good is it having all these extra arms if you can't reach anything anyway?
Very good. Very good. Alex, you're going to ask me for the citation, but I also read somewhere that you see your show as a living, evolving sort of storyline, right? So in a moment of seriousness, you talk in your show about anti-Semitism, about what it means to be a Jew. How has that evolved over time, and obviously specifically after October 7th, and the rise of so much anti-Semitism?
Well, wait, what happened? No, I'm just kidding. I honestly think that look, I think to Zarna's point, you can talk about anything, and you should. Comedians should be talking about the things that are on people's minds. They should be addressing, they should be giving comedy that is conversant with the moment that it's in, but also an escape from it. Like right after October 7th, we had shows in San Francisco, and someone sent me a message or a comment saying, I'm going to come to San Francisco on October 28th and behead you in front of your Zionist buddies. And I was like, well, the shows end on the 27th. Like, I'm not going to stay. I'm going to stick around. But I called my producer, Jenny Gersten, and I was like, Jenny, should we cancel these shows? And I spoke to Modi, spoke to Elon Gold, other comics I love and respect, and we decided to do the shows, and it felt different. The comedy feels that, look, you mount plays. There's a play I saw last night at the Public called The Ally, which is conversant with the moment that we're in right now. And it was written years ago. And so, I think that...
but apparently the ending's changed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But, I think art in general, in comedy, if you want to call it art, I know you probably consider it a distraction, but I think it should. I think it should be conversant with the moment that it's in. And I added a couple lines to the show. I opened the show now I say when I was in high school, I saw John Updike, famous novelist, give a talk, and John Updike said, if you're lucky at one point in your life, the work that you write will find itself in conversation with the times in which you live. And then I go, well, call me Mr. Lucky. So, yeah.
It's fascinating to see how you're tackling a lot of these issues. You poke fun at the Orthodox community, at secular community, at every community out there. So I think that's really important. Zarna, you're out there opening for Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. You have a podcast. You've got all sorts of going on. I've listened to episodes on matchmaking, and there may be a yenta or two in the audience, but I've now learned that yenta is not actually the word for matchmaker. It's shadchen, just so we know.
Don't you dare. And shadchan, right?
Shadchan? Okay, so now we know. But anyway, tell me about sort of how you go about and pick these family themes for your podcast. You've gotten them involved?
Oh, yeah. Because...
poll the audience?
What? I'm trying to remember
in your brain now.
If it's Shadchan or what? Shadchan, that's right.
Shadchan, thank you. Thank you so much. This is our audience participation part of the panel. But how do you pick the family themes and the issues that you delve into?
So first of all, it was very easy to get them all involved because I realized, I was like, why am I the only one working? Well, the kids should be working. Why am I the only? It's comedy, it's making videos and, stuff that kids do anyway. And no bar is low enough in our family. If something is going to track, we're going to talk about it. But it came from a space of talking about things that brown families don't talk about. And I thought our family was the only family that had kids, teens and above, who had never talked about sex. So our first episode is called The Sex Talk, where my husband and I ask the kids what they know about sex.
Oh my God.
And it's right? And I thought we were the only family that had never talked about it. It turns out no one's talking about sex. So it was like a revelation. And in an episode where I have my 20-year-old and my 17-year-old and my 11-year-old, I thought it would be the older two who would have something to say. It was actually my 11-year-old who was like, I've kissed a girl. But it came from that space of opening up conversations that don't really happen in brown families, and now we're discovering in any families.
When I went to a yeshiva, and they didn't tell us we were going to have sex ed. They just one day went, you're getting new schedules, and where there used to be history, it just said sex with the rabbi, and I was like. I was like, every Tuesday? And I had ADHD, so I get time and a half on everything. So I'm just like,
Alex, you talked. I literally keep asking myself, can I laugh at this? You talked about sort of rebranding Jewish humor. And yet, you have been referred to as like a generational talent by some of the greats. I mean, like, I don't know if you guys know this, but like Jerry Seinfeld, Billy Crystal, come to his show, go backstage, give him notes, which he then has co-opted into his show. Norman Lear, Mel Brooks, they've all sort of lauded praise on you.
you know.
And, but you know, think about it. There's a tradition of the producers, right? Max Bialystock making fun of like Springtime for Hitler. I'd be curious how you think Jewish humor, the history of it, I'm sure you've given thought to this, and where does it go to?
I think that, first of all, when you consider some of those, by the way, when those guys came to the show, I kept thinking like, how did anyone ever shoot Abe Lincoln? Because everyone was watching them watch the show. Like, no one was watching the show, they were watching them. Wasn't every scene in that play, someone's like, what does Lincoln think of that? Yeah. But yeah, all these guys, they came, you know who shot, I didn't realize that it was like, okay, we want, okay.
But
all right, focus, I have to answer your question, yes.
Yeah.
It was like the most famous actor's brother shot Lincoln. It's like if Emilio Estevez shot the president, it's crazy. All right, fine. What was the question? It was about the famous comedians. Yeah, famous comics coming to the show. It's and the tradition of yeah.
It's in there. I know.
Yeah. Look, it's amazing. I think not to generalize about Jewish culture, but I grew up in a very teacher-focused environment, and so my heroes and idols and people like Norman and Mel Brooks and those guys mean a lot to me, and you learn really valuable lessons from them. But if you think about how daring that comedy was, like the producers came out in like 1966. Holocaust survivors were in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s. They were hearing jokes about the Holocaust that were like front and center. There's Heil Hitler's on their screens, on their stages. And I think that level of daring is something that is really, really important. But it was daring, but it was kind. And like people often mistake, they go, oh, comedy has to be funny. I think that's kind of true. But like my favorite jokes, I think my favorite joke isn't very funny. Like my favorite jokes, probably my 3 or 4 favorite jokes aren't very funny.
What's your favorite joke?
All right, so this guy dies. I'll tell you this short. Fine. This guy dies, he goes to heaven, and he's waiting in line for frozen yogurt. And he looks to his right, and God's there, and he's like, oh, God. And God's like, hi, Mark. And he's like, oh, thanks so much. Life is really cool. Deer and the fjords, thank you so much, big fan. And God's like, always, yeah, no problem. And so they're waiting in line, and it's like a hold up at the front. And the guy says, God? And God's like, yeah, man. And he said, do you want to hear a joke? And God's like, oh, sure, I love jokes. And the guy tells God a Holocaust joke. And God says, well, I have to tell you, I don't find that joke funny at all. And the guy goes, well, guess you had to be there, huh? And see, that gets that reaction. But there isn't no, that gets that reaction in every room. But there isn't a single person who wouldn't be like, that's a great joke. Like that joke makes a beautiful point in a beautiful way. And occasionally 1 out of every 1,000 people laughs at that. And if I ever meet the right person, I'll marry that person. But like, yeah, that's I think Jewish comedy has always made really important points. Going back to like Isaac Bashevis Singer, going back to like, there are great Jewish novelists, great Jewish writers, Norman, Mel, man, I miss Norman.
Yeah.
Oh God. He always say, I'm just another, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. But.
No. I do wonder though about this evolution of Jewish comedy that you're talking about. How does it evolve from, the
Shicky hacks?
From the shicky hacks.
I think it's focused on like what it meant to be Jewish in the 60s and 70s, as this conference is kind of, a lot of the conversations this conference has been about is a different existence than Jews have now. We live different lives. Jews in America occupy a different place than we did, a more complicated place, a really difficult place to understand. Like we have different types of anti-Semitism. We have we want to wipe them all out perm anti-Semitism, but we also have it's okay to be Jewish as long as you're not in any way actually considering Judaism an animating force, the sort of Hanukkah anti-Semitism. Like our lives are different lives. And I think addressing the complexity and nuance of that experience, people say like, oh, you can't say anything now. You can say pretty much anything on stage. You can get away with pretty much anything, provided you show your work, provided people understand the point that you're making, and we need more nuanced, complicated comedy to talk about the more nuanced, complicated times that we are living in.
This clock.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I really do appreciate.
The clock is our enemy, but I want to give you the final words. Arna, give me a sense of, we talk from this stage a lot about uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes your comedy makes people uncomfortable. How do you think about that?
Some people are saying sometimes your comedy makes people uncomfortable.
Well, I just wanted to actually answer the question you asked, Alex, about how Jewish comedy is evolving. And I will tell you that my entire comedy career would not exist without Jewish women in comedy. So teaching me that it's okay to trash my mother-in-law on stage is one evolution that you may not have seen coming, and now I'm doing it on a global scale. Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining us today, for sharing your laughter and comedy. Yes? I don't want to bury any thoughts from you.
No. Look, I think it's you're not going to say who said the Nebuchadnezzar thing. It's totally fine.
He's not fixated at all, don't worry.
You just say like Woody Allen before all the stuff.
Exactly,
That's the type of thing.
Thank you both for joining us. Thank you for being here. Enjoy. You're hilarious. You're great.
I think we follow.
Kill it out there.
Thank you.
Thank you to Alex Edelman and Zarna Garg for joining Juju for their dive into comedy and identity. Their insights showed the serious impact of humor. Coming up next is a fascinating panel about the inescapable impact of social media and the role of content creators in fighting hate in 2024. We have an unbelievable group of experts here on stage, each with a social media audience, literally no exaggeration, of millions. And I am so eager to hear what they have to say about how influencers can and should leverage their platforms to fight anti-Semitism and reach audiences who may not be listening to traditional mainstream voices on topics like extremism and the Middle East. Please welcome the host of this discussion we're calling To Post or Not to Post, Eitan Bernath, an award-winning chef, author, and TV personality, as well as social media activist Montana Tucker, and Chen Mazig, an author and the founder of the Tel Aviv Institute. Each of these experts is already making such a difference in fighting hate for good as they influence their millions of followers. Please welcome to the stage Eitan, Montana, and Chen.
Fun time to be Jewish on the internet, and we do this professionally. It's a hard act to follow, but I feel like we have a well-lubricated audience. We are here today to talk about being Jews on the internet. It's never been a greater time and a more challenging time to be a Jew on the internet. And so we have two incredible friends, incredible Jews, incredible activists in front of us with combined over 25 million followers, reach billions of people around the world. Let's do a little round of introductions. In case any of you live under a rock. Montana, do you want to kick us off?
No, oh my gosh. Hi everyone, this is incredible to see you all here. Wow, this is amazing. Thank you, ADL, for putting this on and for having us. My name is Montana Tucker. I am a singer, dancer, actress, and social media activist. And I have never been more proud to be a Jew.
Thank you so much, Eitan. My name is Chen Mazig. I'm an author and thank you. I'm not as talented as these two. I don't know how to cook or to dance, but I do know how to create content about Jews in Israel.
Amazing. Go Chen. My name is Eitan Bernath. I will be moderating this panel. I am a chef, author, and activist. You may have seen some of my cooking videos on the internet. I also work on CBS on the Drew Barrymore Show as a principal culinary contributor, and am a very proud Jew, big fan of the ADL. And let's just kick this off. So I want us to back up a little bit. You know, I feel like October 7th is a date that reminds me also of like COVID. There was like life before and life after. Let's back up to October 6th, the days before, life is as we know it. You know, how did you each use social media? Was being Jewish a big part of your social media presence? Let's start with that.
Yeah, so before October 7th, a year ago, I actually created a docuseries, a Holocaust educational docuseries called How to Never Forget. Both of my grandparents are Holocaust survivors. And before that, I actually grew my platforms from dancing, from singing, from acting. And my name is Montana Tucker. I know it's not the most Jewish sounding name, so a lot of my followers may have not known that I was Jewish. I would post every so often. And when I did my Holocaust educational series, it definitely was a shock to a lot of people that didn't know. They also didn't follow me for that type of content. So that was a year ago when I released that. And then since October 7th, of course, I've pretty much taken over my social media. It's really hard to do anything else. I feel like all of us in this room could probably relate to that, whether it's on social media or in real life. But I have used what I love to do to inspire others. Hopefully, I've been to Israel. I went in December. I actually did a flash mob of over 100 dancers in Israel, all Israeli dancers, and everyone's been going through so much over there. So to be able to bring some joy through dance during this time, it's hard to imagine life before October 7th. Yeah. It really is. I feel like we're all forever changed, and anything before, just like it's hard to imagine life before COVID, it really is hard to imagine life before October 7th, and I think we're all changed forever.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that October 7th was really a moment that a lot of us felt that we need to change the way we're doing social media. But even before then, my organization, the Tel Aviv Institute, has been working with Jewish social media influencers that are not as open about their Jewish identity as Montana, which I get because it's scary, but to help and empower them speak up about their identity in a way that fits their audience. What Montana is doing brilliantly is, she's going to do a flash mob in Israel. This is what our audience is coming for a platform for, and they're actually connecting you and you're meeting people where they're at. And that's why I think it's so powerful. And the same for you, Eitan. I think this sort of work that you take your strength and you play into your strength and to the audience and what they want to get from you and bring in Israel, bring in your Jewish identity, speaking up about it is the most powerful thing we can do. And that's what we've done before October 7th. And I think a lot of it has changed, but the commitment of the Jewish people is what hasn't changed. I think people that have spoken up before speak up now, and a lot of more people speaking up more loudly, but I think that's the one thing that I'm so proud of seeing, Jews speaking up.
Yeah, no, it's truly been incredible. I think since October 7th, there has been, of course, a lot of grief and hardship and pain amongst the Jewish community. But I think the most beautiful thing since then, and something that keeps me going, and I'm sure keeps many of you in the audience, waking up every day, is the unity among the Jewish people. People who maybe didn't have as much Jewish life in their life are now embracing going to Shabbat meals, going to synagogue, speaking about being Jewish, and that's been truly incredible. Now, I talked about initially when we walked out here, it's quite a time to be a Jew on the internet. We do it professionally all day long. And I want to hear from each of you your experience, how you've been navigating being a Jew online, speaking about anti-Semitism, speaking about October 7th, speaking as a proud Zionist and supporter of the state of Israel and its existence. It's never been, it's never been uncommon to receive threats and hate for being Jewish on the internet. But since October 7th, there's been a tsunami of it. I know, speaking for myself, I've received more death threats than I've ever seen in my life. I've had to hire security. There were periods of time when I was getting so many specific death threats of, I will find you in New York City and kill you. I know where you live, et cetera, et cetera. How have you been navigating that? And have you had to change anything about your life, your platform since then?
Absolutely. I think that when I released my series, I definitely received hate of people saying, the Holocaust never existed, or your grandparents should have died, and we're not going to stop until you die. That was, a year ago. And then since October 7th, in the first 2 weeks after I lost 50 to 60,000 followers on Instagram.
Pesach cleaning.
No, I'm like, thank you. If you're going to unfollow me because I don't want you at all, that's for sure. But the messages, thankfully nothing has happened in person. It's really all been online. But the messages that these people are sending, that people have so much hate inside of them, that this has been there. This is not new. This isn't, a lot of it might be new for people just following along with the trend of hating Jews right now.
I don't know that it's new, but I think it's now, people aren't afraid to voice those feelings.
Yeah.
It's become acceptable.
It's popular. It's literally popular to be against Jews and against Israel. That's what's popular. That's what's trending on the platforms. As we know, the popular hashtags on TikTok were Hitler was right, were Osama bin Laden, were, anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, whatever these hashtags, they're literally trending and popular. And so kids that don't even know better, don't even know anything about the conflict or anything going on, or about the Holocaust even, just see a video that has 10 million views, see that it's trending and popular, and they want to be popular too. So they're just following along with the trend. But the messages I've received, people have called me Hitler, myself. Me, the individual person, with the work I'm doing, apparently I am Hitler myself. What really gets to me is when they talk about my grandparents. They can talk about me all day long, I don't care, but when they directly talk about my grandparents, and it affects me. But also the DMs, the positive messages that I'm sure all of us in here, I can only imagine what both of you guys get as well. I think that's what keeps us all going, right? We can get hate messages all day long, but from the Jews around the world, because with social media, we can reach people all around the world. It's not just in the US, not just in Israel. We're reaching people all around the world. So to have people message us and thank us for the work that we're doing, from my 1-minute video or your graphics that you're posting or whatever you're posting, that I think is what fuels us and keeps us going, knowing that we are making an impact, and you never know who you're going to reach with that piece of content.
Yeah, very, very true. And now, Chen, you do an incredible job at providing information that's digestible for the masses. Many public figures share your posts. I would love to hear how, in this period of time when it feels like factual information is far and few between on the internet, how do you navigate providing fact-based information to people, to the masses, in a digestible way that can, be absorbed by the reader when they're just scrolling on Instagram?
Yeah, I'm trying to always lead with kindness, to always see the humanity, to speak about, even if I speak about horrific stories, to find a way to make it digestible for people to share. And this type of, we were talking about what happened after October 7th, I've seen all of it. I've been doing this work, speaking about Israel and anti-Semitism and Jewish identity for over a decade now. And I've heard all those lies. I've heard the term genocide being thrown years ago. I even heard this, have you heard during December where they said that Jesus was a Palestinian? You've heard that? I never thought I'm going to have to fight for Jesus. I had to do what I had to do. And just to think of how clever this sort of rhetoric is, because instead of saying Jews kill Jesus, which we all know it's taboo and something that you can't say because it's anti-Semitic, instead we can say that Jesus was a Palestinian. And we all know who's killing Palestinians today. So the Jewish state is actually killing Jesus. So to create such sophisticated anti-Semitic propaganda has been a process that has gone on for years. And the way that we have to combat it is not by playing in this level. And one of my commanders in the army, when I served as a humanitarian officer in Gaza, working on providing humanitarian aid to Palestinians, I remember him telling me how important it is that when we fight a war in Gaza, that we're not fighting the way that Hamas is fighting, because we are not like them. And when you fight a monster, you have to make sure that you're not turning into one.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, and on these platforms right now, there seems to just be a complete failure of the systems in place that are meant to protect people online, specifically right now the Jewish community, whether that's the threats we're receiving or just the misinformation that's allowed on the platforms, whether it's videos claiming just absolutely absurd pieces of false information. We were part of a letter that was published a few months back, a Dear TikTok letter, calling out TikTok for the just complete lack of support for the Jewish community and the allowance of such hate and vitriol and awful things written about Jews and misinformation out there. How, Montana, have you seen the platforms fail Jewish creators? I think it's important to know, because if this can happen to us, it can happen to any other group of people. And that's why it's so important. If these platforms can fail us, it can happen to truly anyone.
Absolutely. I think TikTok specifically, it's such a shame that this is happening. I mean, when I started TikTok is my biggest platform. I have over 9 million followers on there, and I'm so grateful, and it's been a huge part of my career. And TikTok used to be this place where anything goes. Anyone is accepted, no matter what you look like, no matter where you come from. If you're a little kid in your bedroom dancing, you can wake up the next morning and you can have 20 million views. Like, it was such a beautiful platform, and on your For You page, you'd always come across different races, different ethnicities, like anything was accepted and actually promoted. It was the more different and unique you were, the more you were promoted on the platform. And to see what has happened after October 7th is so upsetting. And we've been on all these calls with TikTok and with these platforms, and everyone just kind of acts like they don't know what's going on. Like, we're not doing anything. But it's been really, really upsetting. It's also with their comment filters and all the things that they're trying to put in place. Even if you block words, if someone just spells the word a little bit differently, it gets on there. It's not being shown to people on the For You page or to the proper people, all these different algorithms and things. And it's upsetting, because this is something that we've all built such careers that we love and we're proud of on these platforms, and we want to be able to get to people on there, and we want people to be able to see this type of content. And nothing that any of us are posting is going against anyone. Is to show what's going on, to show facts. For me specifically, it's to share personal stories of what is going on right now, whether it was my grandparents' Holocaust story or survivors of October 7th or going to Israel. And it's really to humanize all these individual stories, yet we're being attacked, and our content's either not being shown or it's being shown to all the wrong people. So it's really upsetting, and I think, but we're all still fighting and trying and doing the best we can, and we're not going to stop posting. But
yes, clap to that. Yeah, I think right around when we published the Dear TikTok letter, there were some that were like, just stop posting on TikTok, don't support. But if there's no Jewish loud voices on TikTok, on these platforms, then if we don't fight for ourselves, who will fight for us? And so thank you. That is so important, and for us to keep putting pressure on these platforms. Under US law, they are not responsible, these platforms, for what is put on them, the content distributed on them, what people write. And so there's very little incentive to do anything beyond just what will get Congress to not try to pass new laws. Just enough to keep it out of the press. That's all they really need to do.
Just to add to it, I feel like in the Jewish community, we often go between either burn down whoever is failing us to trying to fix it, which you are fixers. And I think we need to focus on that as a community. We can't give up on academic institutions because they've failed us. We can't give up on international institutions. We have to be there. You have to be on the table if you want to make a difference. It's something that every Jew knows, and we've done it for so long. So it's really important not to give up and keep on pushing ourselves forward, because no one is going to do it for us. Those companies, they don't really care. I'm sorry, they care about money. They do not. That's at the end of the day, if their stock is going to cost more, that's going to make them happy. But I think it's up to us. And and if you're afraid that we are outnumbered, let me tell you about Jewish history, okay?
Yes. Now, in our last few minutes, I want to speak about the positive things that have come out of the last few months. The Jewish unity, of course, and also being able to use our platforms for Jewish advocacy in ways we've never seen before. Now, Montana, you have an incredible story I want you to share about what happened to you at the Grammys. Montana, I don't know if you saw this photo, Montana wore an incredible dress to the Grammys and truly turned that opportunity that you got from your work unrelated to being a Jewish advocate and used that opportunity, that platform, to advocate for the Jewish people. So can you tell this brief story? It's incredible.
Yes. As an artist, being invited to the Grammys is like, there's nothing bigger, right? To go to the Grammys. And so when I got invited, I freaked out, obviously, because I couldn't believe I was invited. And then, of course, immediately I was like, okay, what can I do? I got to do something. And I know going around with all the award shows was the yellow pin, which I know a lot of us in here are wearing, which is amazing. And I knew maybe some people would wear it, maybe not. For the other shows, I didn't see that many wearing it, like maybe like two for the other shows. So of course I was like, no, I gotta have a massive yellow ribbon so that no one can miss it and it's in everyone's face. Thank you. But I never get nervous. Like I can speak in front of 300,000 people and be great. I never get nervous, but going there was like, right as I walked up to the carpet, I was like, okay, this is happening. Like I'm doing this and I'm by myself and I'm gonna do it. And I did it. And then afterwards, I actually had someone from the Recording Academy come up to me saying, okay, did you get all your content? Like kind of trying to rush me off the carpet. And basically she said that comms came to her and had a problem with my dress and said it was too political and they were really upset about my dress. And I was like, that's so interesting. It's actually not political at all. Are you aware of what the yellow ribbon stands for? And then her face got all nervous and she's like, okay, well, can you take it off? Like, is it possible to remove the ribbon? I'm like, it's sewn onto my dress. Like, we're on the red carpet, like, no. And also, I would never take it off. And she's like, okay, you can go out there, but we're not gonna be able to share any of your content. So the Recording Academy wouldn't share any of my content. So it's kind of freaking out. I went back out, and then 2 minutes later, Harvey Mason Jr., who I think is absolutely incredible. I hope he is continuing to get the praise he deserves. Gave his amazing speech, but before that, I know he was giving the speech and he came up to me and he goes, wow, I love your dress. It's amazing. Thank you for wearing that. Can we take a picture? And I was like, oh my gosh, Harvey Mason Jr., if you guys, he's the head of the Recording Academy in case anyone doesn't know. But anyway, and then I honestly didn't post anything yet, and then I sat in my seat and all of a sudden everything kind of blew up. And the messages, the most amazing messages to me were from the hostage families that reached out to me, who I've kept in contact with because I've met so many of them, and they were just so thankful. So
incredible. Truly such an incredible way to use your platform.
I tried to make it short.
For good. No, it's an incredible story. It deserves its time. Chen, would love to hear from you. You know, what motivates you to not stop talking about fighting anti-Semitism? You know, it can be hard to wake up every day, you know, combating anti-Semitism and Jew hatred. You know, it's not always the most sexy topic. What gets you motivated, no matter what you have in your DMs, to keep going?
I'm doing everything I do for my ancestors, for my grandparents. They came to Israel from Iraq and Tunisia. They came with nothing but the clothes to their backs. And when they came to Israel, they had hope and they wanted a better future for their kids. They were chased by anti-Semites in those countries. And I'll be damned if I let anti-Semites make anyone feel like my grandparents did. And that's why I keep talking, and that's why I keep sharing.
I like to say, I don't know if I came up with this quote, but I like to say that I love being Jewish more than anyone hates me for it. And that's what keeps me motivated.
Absolutely.
Every day.
It's a great quote.
And I think to add on that too, it's like with our ancestors, my grandparents, they had to hide being Jewish, or they had to run away. We now, everyone in this room, is a powerful Jew. And we don't have to stay silent. We don't have to hide. And we have the opportunity to speak out, to make a difference. And that's why we have to keep doing it, whether it's on social media, whether it's in the school systems, whether it's to Congress, whatever it is, because I know there are so many different types of people in here in different ages. We all have the opportunity to continue making an impact. And like you said, I feel like the Jewish community has come together in a way I've personally never seen before in my entire life. And I think it's really motivating to all of us to keep going.
Yeah, incredibly inspiring.
It's also just one more point on that, because I think it's important. Being Jewish is the coolest thing ever. It's the most punk thing you can do. I just want to make sure, because I feel like people are almost ashamed of it, or feeling like we need to be. To be a populist is what is being an anti-Semite today. So if you're not an anti-Semite, if you're Jewish, if you stand up for Jews, you're the coolest person, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And just, speak up, because I think, we're looking at our history, we're looking at our ancestors, we're looking at the people in Masada, we're looking at the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto that uprised. We're looking at those Jewish heroes that did not let anti-Semites win against us. And I'm looking at all of you today, and you are all the heroes that one day people will look back at us and will see you standing up, and that's what will empower them the way our ancestors empower us.
Incredible. I think that kind of touches on the last point I wanted to discuss. For the three of us, we are able to reach millions of people about our work, about combating anti-Semitism, about Jewish advocacy, but I truly believe that the work we do is extremely important, but the most important work are the one-on-one conversations, the work that whether you in this audience have 10 followers on Instagram, just have a few friends at the office who aren't Jewish or who don't know about what's going on in Israel, that is the important work. And at times like now, we can feel very powerless. I remember after October 7th, that was something I felt. I was like, I just feel so powerless right now. And I think the most incredible part of, social media has a lot of good, a lot of bad, but I think the most incredible thing right now is that each and every person can really use their platform, whether that's to tons of people online, to the people, their neighbors, their friends, the people they see at their coffee shop. Very briefly, before we head off stage, what can each person in this audience do to make a difference in their own little way?
Well, I think based off of that, it doesn't matter if you have 1 follower or 1 million followers. Before I did my docuseries, I honestly thought it was probably not going to do well. But I said, you know what? If one person is impacted by it, you never know the ripple effect that has, right? What can happen from that one person seeing your video or that one conversation? That person's whole entire life could potentially change. I know that sounds crazy, but their whole entire life and all the people they impact in their life will be changed from that conversation, from that piece of content. So the followers are amazing because we are reaching a bunch of different types of people, but your individual conversations, your individual postings, whether it's to your 10 followers, it's so important to keep going because truly the ripple effect, I think, is what is most important in this because it's our generation, it's our future generations, and we're all doing this, I feel like a lot of us, for our ancestors, for our family that wasn't able to speak up back then. And so that's such a good point, is that it doesn't matter how many followers you have, you don't know the ripple effect and what can happen from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to add on this, I think speaking up and being proud is what every other marginalized community have been doing for a long time, and we have to do it. We have to lead with kindness. We have to humanize and resist dehumanization of Palestinians, just like we resist dehumanization of Israelis. This is not going to contribute to anyone or to peace, so we cannot allow that. But speak up, be proud, don't let anyone tell you to be ashamed of yourself, and remember that being Jewish and alive today is a magic, it's a miracle, it's nothing short of it.
Incredible. Well, thank you two so much for this incredible conversation. This is so important to be discussed, and I think that it's truly everyone's job as a Jew to do their part in fighting for the Jewish people and doing it whether it's for our ancestors or for our grandkids one day. So they can say, oh, hey, my grandparents fought their fight. That's truly important. Thank you all so much. Thank you to the ADL for having us at this incredible conference in this ginormous room among all of you. Thank you, Jonathan Greenblatt, for your leadership and for trusting us to share our stories. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all so much. Am Yisrael Chai!
Yisrael Chai, yeah!
Thank you.
Wow. The future is safe. Thank you, Eitan, Montana, and Chen. I know we're all getting hungry. I've seen the box lunches. They look delicious. Now we're going to pivot with some breaking news. As a result of ADL's advocacy efforts, we have an exciting announcement from 2 bipartisan leaders on how Congress will work with ADL to fight hate crimes.
Hello, I'm Congressman Don Beyer, and I represent Northern Virginia's 8th Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives.
And I'm Don Bacon, representing Nebraska's 2nd District. We're honored to have the opportunity to speak to you at your Never Is Now Summit and stand firmly with you in this fight against anti-Semitism.
Look, the data is clear. We've seen an alarming increase in anti-Semitic rhetoric and threats in the U.S. and around the world. According to the FBI, more than half of all religious bias crimes in 2022 were motivated by anti-Semitism.
And that hate is still rising. Tragically, experts expect to see record numbers of anti-Semitic incidents in the 2023 data that the FBI will release later this year.
As a nation and a Congress, we must unequivocally reject hatred in all its forms, including through legislation that can make a real difference in ensuring the safety and security of Jewish Americans.
Congress must be clear that there is no place for violence or other hatred directed towards the Jewish people and communities anywhere in our country. That's why we're introducing bipartisan legislation to better tackle anti-Semitic incidents by improving reporting of bias incidents by law enforcement agencies.
We need credible reporting in order to better prevent these attacks. Good data drives good policy, and we need a more comprehensive picture of the hate-driven incidents facing our communities to ensure our policies are accurately addressing this increasing threat.
Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you. We will continue to be your partner in the fight against anti-Semitism.
We are pleased to present some remarks from none other than Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Hello, everyone. I wish I could join you in person at this year's Never Is Now Summit, but I couldn't, so I appreciate very much the invitation to send this message of appreciation to the Anti-Defamation League for all you are doing to combat hate around the world, and to say to everyone attending in New York and online that the work of combating anti-Semitism is more urgent and important than ever. Like all of you, I was outraged by the horrific massacre of Israelis by Hamas on October 7th, the worst mass murder of Jews since the Holocaust. And I am appalled by the surge in anti-Semitism and attacks on Jewish people around the world that have followed. Though I think it is important to say that anti-Semitism has been on the rise for years now, predating October 7th. But just since October 7th, the ADL has reported a 360% increase in anti-Semitic incidents in the United States. On college and university campuses, they have recorded a total of 744 anti-Semitic incidents. To put that in perspective, there were 85 during the same period last year. This rising current of anti-Semitism has manifested itself in every part of society, academia, civic life, the halls of power, and especially across social media platforms. The roots of this ancient hatred run deep, but it must end, and all of us have a role to play. Just a week ago, I was in Munich with Ambassador Deborah Lipstadt, the special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism. We held a dialogue about the rise of anti-Semitism and what a danger it poses across our world because it coincides with an increase in hate. The ambassador and I spoke at some length about what each of us has seen and what we must do to stand up against it, speak out at every turn. That's why I'm grateful to all of you in the audience and online for joining this summit and uniting against anti-Semitism, and to the ADL for working so hard to create a world free from all bigotry and violence. Combating hate is the fight of our lifetimes, and I am honored to stand alongside you. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Chair of the ADL Board of Directors, Ben Sachs.
Thank you, Senator Clinton, for those powerful and inspiring words. Do you think she heard me? I don't think so. I just wanted to take a moment to look around this room and say thank you. It's actually incredible, the group that we have here today. And you should continue to scroll. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to be here this week. Sorry. And thank you for asking questions and listening to the answers with an open mind. Thank you for prioritizing fighting anti-Semitism and hate and actively working to bring change. No matter who you are or how you're involved, thank you so much for being here. When I stand up here and I look at the room, it's just incredible. And so really, give yourself some applause. It's amazing. So each time we gather at our Never Is Now conference, we learn, we connect, and we commit to doing the work. It's the work that is meaningful. It's the work that is difficult. It's the work that makes a difference. And what exactly is the work? To take what we've learned at this conference into our work lives, our school lives, our personal lives, and help people come together. Under Jonathan's leadership and with the efforts of ADL's incredible staff, and with our volunteer support, I have seen the organization thrive while facing levels of anti-Semitism that we have not seen for generations. We cannot ignore that we are living in a moment of history where our nation is divided. We are dangerously polarized, fueled by the unrelenting echo chambers of cable news and social media. And as some of us have learned in the session focused on AI, and perhaps the session that just came before me, it's likely to get worse. And each one of us has a role to play in helping to heal and, frankly, to find hope. My hope for the ADL is that we can be a big tent where everyone is welcome. But we know big tents can still house big disagreements. We are an organization that acknowledges and supports the experiences of different identities, backgrounds, orientations, and faiths, because we recognize that all of us must do as much as we possibly can to combat hate and find hope in our communities. The test for being a part of this organization is not about which side of the political aisle you're on, whether you're Jewish, Muslim, Catholic, atheist, or something else. It's simply, are you willing to fight hate and find hope? That's it. If the answer is yes, then you have a home at the ADL. The ADL Big Tent can and does have room for more people than you would expect. One current example has emerged since the October 7th massacre in Israel. Many who demonstrate against Israel's war in Gaza make the mistake of equating Israeli government policy with all Jews living in diaspora. As we have experienced, anti-Semitism against Jews in this country has spiked dramatically because of this. In this narrative, it seems as if somehow all Jews everywhere are responsible for innocent lives being lost in Gaza. If you are a part of this community, the work is to help others understand that there is a difference, thereby de-escalating the tensions that have emerged in places like campuses across our country. And if you can do that, you have a place in ADL's Big Tent. Anti-Semitism spreads in so many ways. It's in a casual conversation, it's in our politics, it's all over social media. I remember when I was back in college, one of my fraternity brothers asked me, "Oh, you're Jewish? Do you celebrate Thanksgiving?" As Ambassador Deborah Lipsat said yesterday, anywhere anti-Semitism is permitted to exist, bad things follow. As we face anti-Semitism from both the far left and the extreme right of our political spectrum, we have the responsibility to find the center, to bring everyone in, not to push people out, to find hope. And we can do that through our advocacy and action. For me, the best part of this week was seeing so many students who traveled to be here to learn and connect. And if you're in the room now, thank you for coming here. I hope the lessons that you all walk away with is that we do not need to agree on everything, but we do need to listen, to solve problems by confronting them head on, directly but sensitively. It's not easy, but if we ask the tough questions and we find compromise, we do what Nazir, or as you know him as Nas Daily, was talking about yesterday. We don't let conflict define our lives. We can't be afraid to use what we believe and share it within our networks and discuss it with our friends. It's up to us. We can't wait for others to jump in. It needs to be the people in this room, and it needs to be now. I think my mother is clapping in the third row over there. I am grateful to every one of you who took action against hate this week, and I thank you in advance for all of the good I know that you're going to do when you return home. We are in this together, and that gives me great hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ben, for those thoughtful remarks at this challenging time we all know. I know all of us who consider ourselves part of the ADL community are so appreciative of Ben's leadership at this time. I don't know about you guys, but I laughed, I cried. It was better than Cats. I really enjoyed my time here. Thank you. There is no question about it. The world is definitely changing around us, and it's a very challenging time. Anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, hate on campus, hate online, extremism is seeping from the fringes towards the mainstream, and divisions are increasing as we move towards a crescendo of this election cycle. It's daunting, but please remember, you're not alone. That's why you're here at Never Is Now. You've shown up, and showing up is half the battle. You've rejected the misinformation, the disinformation, and the hostility and the extremism that's gaining traction in every corner.
I can hear you all rustling. It's like after the sermon when everyone's trying to get to the doors. So we need you to take these ideas, to take the connections and the inspirations that you have gotten at Never Is Now and bring them back to your communities. We need you to be leaders, to be the first voice to speak up when others are silent. This is both the challenge and the opportunity for all of us. The good news is that ADL is in your corner, and they will stay vigilant in helping you to fight hate for good. When you need resources, you can go to adl.org for their latest work. When you need help in dealing with an anti-Semitic incident, you can reach out to ADL and their regional offices for support. When you need advice on how to respond in the classroom, in City Hall, in a chat room, ADL is here, and you are not alone. If you'd like to express your support for ADL's work financially, please do it. Please pay it forward. Make a donation to adl.org, on adl.org. You just click the donate button. It's very literal. On behalf of Juju, Chang, and myself, Abby Pogrebin, and from Jonathan Greenblatt, who is our leader in all things, Ben Sachs, and the entire incredible ADL professional and volunteer team, and all the technical team behind. You cannot believe what these folks have done. And to security. Thank you to security. Whether you're here, whether you're online, we are with you. Go have lunch, and thank you.